Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive on Dixon Technologies.
Yeah, they're making some serious waves in the Indian electronics manufacturing scene.
Absolutely. And they've seen some wild growth, too.
Wild is right. 133% year-on-year revenue increase. That's pretty impressive.
No kidding. Plus, they're apparently about to start producing for a big global brand.
Makes you think, all those electronics we use every day, how did they actually get made?
Right. And how did these companies become giants in the tech world?
Well, Dixon's a great example. Their success story is a big part of how India is trying to become a major player in global electronics.
So they're not just assembling gadgets, are they?
Nope, they're really pushing for domestic manufacturing in India.
Okay, let's talk numbers for a second. Over 8 million smartphones, almost 10 million LED TVs, all in just one quarter. Pretty mind-blowing, right?
Those are some serious numbers. Definitely puts them right up there as a key player in India's electronics market.
So where do they fit in exactly? I mean, what's their role?
They're what's called an EMS provider, electronics manufacturing services.
EMS. So what's that in plain English?
Think of it like this. They're the ones who actually make the stuff, the behind-the-scenes force, bringing those ideas from the big brands to life.
Ah, I get it. So how are they different from a company like, say, Samsung, which designs and sells its own products?
Exactly. Companies like Samsung, they focus on design, the brand, a lot of the software side too. They come up with the concepts, but then they often turn to EMS companies like Dixon to handle the actual manufacturing.
Interesting. It's like a specialized partnership then.
You got it. A partnership where each side focuses on their strengths.
Okay. So I've been hearing about Dixon's push for manufacturing depth. What exactly does that mean?
It means they're not just sticking to assembling the final product.
So what else are they doing?
They're going deeper into the supply chain, venturing into more complex things, precision components, camera modules, that kind of thing.
Whoa. So like the tiny gears in a smartwatch.
Exactly. Or the really complex lens systems in smartphone cameras.
Wow, that's really intricate stuff.
It is. It shows how ambitious they are.
So they're trying to control more of the whole process, from the tiny parts to putting it all together in the end.
You got it.
But wouldn't that take a ton of investment
Yeah,
in expertise?
absolutely. It's a bold move for sure.
Yeah.
And it actually ties into the Indian government's push for more domestic manufacturing.
How so?
They've got these initiatives like the Production Linked Incentive Scheme, the PLI. It's designed to encourage companies like Dixon to make these kinds of big investments.
Smart. I see they're also teaming up with HKC to start making displays.
Right?
That's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Displays are in practically every electronic device we use.
Huge step, for sure. Think about it. Right now, India relies a lot on imported displays.
True.
So if Dixon and HKC can make them domestically, that could change things big time.
So they could reduce India's dependence on those imports.
Exactly. They could even make India a major hub for display manufacturing. But, and there's always a but, it's a tough market. There's some serious competition out there.
Right.
So we'll have to wait and see how they measure up against the big players. It's a gamble, no doubt, but a gamble with a potentially huge payoff.
Yeah, if they can make it work.
Exactly. And displays aren't the only thing they're focused on either.
Ooh.
They're getting into other components too, like printed circuit boards.
richer.
Essential for pretty much every electronic device out there.
So this backward integration, as they call it, is really a core part of their strategy.
It seems to be, and there are a few reasons for that.
Like,
Well, for one, it helps them control costs.
makes sense.
But it's not just about saving money.
What else is it about?
It's about control and resilience too.
Okay.
You see, by making more of these components themselves in-house, they're less reliant on external suppliers.
So that makes them less vulnerable to
Disruptions in the global supply chain,
like we saw with
chip shortage.
right, exactly, the chip shortage.
Those kinds of disruptions can really
Mess things up.
big time.
So they're trying to protect themselves,
Exactly, make themselves more self-sufficient.
but that must require a whole other level of expertise.
And infrastructure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's a challenge, but Dixon seems to be tackling it head on.
How so?
Investing in new facilities, for one,
Makes sense.
acquiring companies with specific expertise,
Right.
even partnering with global tech leaders to access the latest processes.
So they're really going all in.
They are.
Speaking of going all in, how are their financials looking?
Well, their revenue growth has been
Very-
not
But I noticed their gross margins have
dipped a little.
slightly. Is that a cause for concern?
It's something to keep an eye on for sure. The
Yeah.
margin dip could be due to several factors.
Right.
It could be rising input costs
Okay.
or pricing pressure in certain segments.
Which segments, for example?
Well, the LED TV market's been a bit shaky lately.
Right. It's a competitive market.
Very
So
competitive.
it's a balancing act for them. They have to grow to stay competitive.
Right. Yeah.
But they also need to manage costs and stay profitable.
Absolutely. Finding that sweet spot is key.
Now, on top of all that, they're also starting production for a major global brand.
Big news.
Yeah, although they're being pretty secretive about who it is.
Keeping it under wraps for now.
What do you think this partnership signals about Dixon's capabilities?
Well, I think landing a client like that really says something about their reputation.
On the global stage?
Exactly. It shows they've earned a reputation for quality, reliability, and the ability to deliver at scale.
Huge.
And, this partnership could open doors to even bigger opportunities down the line. Maybe access to cutting-edge technologies or further solidifying their position as a global player.
Sounds like they're really punching above their weight.
They are taking on the established players.
But as they grow, they'll face new challenges too.
Of course, growth always comes with its own set of challenges.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Well, for one thing, they'll need to maintain quality control.
Makes sense.
Make sure all their facilities are running smoothly.
Right.
And they'll need to attract and keep skilled talent,
That's a big one.
especially in such a fast-growing industry.
So it's not just about growing fast.
No.
It's about growing sustainably.
Exactly, and maintaining that quality that's gotten them this far.
There's a tech side of things.
Right, the electronics industry moves so fast.
It's constantly evolving
Dixon will need to invest heavily in research and development.
to keep up with the latest and greatest.
Exactly.
Of course, there's always competition.
Oh, absolutely. The EMS market is crowded
With both.
domestic and international players.
Right. So how can Dixon stay competitive in such a crowded space?
Well, they need to stand out somehow.
Right.
Offer something unique.
Right.
Maybe a combination of cost effectiveness, technological expertise, and a proven track record of reliability.
That makes sense.
They also need to be agile, adaptable.
Ready to adjust to the market.
Exactly. The market and customer demands are always changing.
So it's a long game.
It is.
They need to keep innovating, stay ahead of the curve.
If they want to stay on top.
Okay, so we've talked about Dixon's impressive growth,
Right.
their ambitious plans for the future,
Uh-huh.
and the potential challenges they'll face along the way.
Yep.
It's clear they're a company on the move,
Definitely.
shaping the future of electronics manufacturing in India and beyond.
No doubt about it.
But what does Dixon's success story tell us about the bigger picture?
You mean?
The changing landscape of global manufacturing.
It tells us that things are changing.
How so?
Well, Dixon's story is a really good example of a bigger trend.
What trend?
This move toward diversification in global manufacturing.
So it's not just made in China anymore,
Not at all. I mean, countries like India, Vietnam, Mexico, they're all stepping up.
becoming major manufacturing hubs.
Exactly. They're challenging the old guard.
Wow. That's a big shift.
It is.
So what's driving this shift? Is it just about money, or are there other factors?
It's a mix of things, really.
Like,
Well, companies want to spread their risk.
so diversify their supply chains.
Exactly makes them less vulnerable to disruptions.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's the cost factor.
Right. Labor costs in China have been rising.
Exactly. So other countries are becoming more attractive from a cost perspective.
I see.
And then you can't forget about the geopolitical side of things either.
How so?
Well, governments are increasingly encouraging domestic manufacturing.
To boost their own economies?
Right. And reduce their dependence on any one country.
So it's a mix of pragmatism, politics, and maybe even a little national pride.
You could say that.
But what does all this mean for the average consumer like me?
Well, potentially it could mean lower prices.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
And more choices, too.
Even better.
We might also see faster delivery times
Because.
because manufacturing is becoming more regionalized.
Interesting.
But of course, there are always concerns.
Yeah.
Quality control and labor standards in these emerging manufacturing hubs.
Yeah, that's important.
Absolutely got to make sure things are being done ethically and sustainably.
Right. But this shift also creates opportunities for these countries
Well, huge opportunity.
to grow their economies and create jobs.
Exactly. It's a chance for economic development and technological advancement.
It's like a win-win.
It can be. Companies get diversified supply chains.
Consumers get more choices and better prices.
And these emerging economies get a boost.
That's the ideal scenario.
But there are potential downsides too, aren't there?
Of course, every coin has two sides.
Like what?
Well, the environmental impact of all this increased manufacturing.
That's a valid concern.
Definitely got to think about the planet.
So sustainable practices, energy efficiency, responsible waste management, all that's crucial.
Absolutely. We can't let this manufacturing boom come at the expense of the environment.
Right, it's a balancing act.
It is, for sure.
We've covered a lot today.
We have.
Dixon's amazing growth, their global ambitions, and the challenges and responsibilities that come with all of that.
It's quite a story. It is, and it really highlights how much the world of manufacturing is changing.
Changing fast.
So, as our listeners go about their day using all these devices,
Surrounded by electronics.
what's the one thing you want them to think about?
I want them to think about the journey of these products.
Where they come from, how they get to us.
Exactly. And the impact of that whole process on the world.
It's easy to take these things for granted.
It is, but there's a whole story behind each gadget.
A story that often spans the globe.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that we're all connected.
More than we realize sometimes.
And that our choices as consumers matter.
They have a ripple effect.
Well said. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me today.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep learning.
Until next time.